Hello everyone, welcome to another video of a Polish grammar series. And today we're finally going to talk about the Polish case system. Finally, the probably scariest part of the whole Polish grammar. Maybe apart from dealing with verbs. But before we dive into it, let me just say that if you know any other language than English, you might be somewhat familiar with how the case structure works or how it could work. So if you speak German, you're pretty familiar with it. Accusative, dative, genitive, right? All of this. If you speak, I believe some Nordic languages also have cases. I think so. They have case systems. Any other Slavic languages, of course. If you speak Spanish or French, you should be pretty familiar with it as well, because as much as not the nouns themselves change, there is some stuff like changing from ella to lo, los, and so other when we talk about direct, indirect objects. And yeah, maybe some other languages as well. But since we're going through this series with, only assuming the English language understanding, I will explain what is a grammatical case from the beginning, right? So when we compare Polish to English, in English, the word order is a king. What does that mean? So when we have a sentence like, the dog sees the cat, that sentence is completely different from the cat sees the dog. So basically, the order of these words, or nouns especially, tells us who is doing action to whom or to what, right? So basically, because the dog is first, the dog sees. So dog sees. And then what comes after the verb will be the recipient of the action, right? There we go. The dog sees the cat, so dog performs the action of seeing on the cat. The cat sees the dog, so cat performs the action of seeing on the dog. Great. So as you might assume, in Polish it's different. In Polish, the endings of words are king, and these endings tells us the role. Cases are special endings added to nouns, pronouns, and adjectives, and these endings tell you, or everyone else speaking Polish, the word's job or function in the sentence. Okay? What could be the function or a job of a word? We'll go over this in a bit. But because of cases, Polish word order is much more flexible. So basically, you can switch around many words in a singular Polish sentence, just switch the order. But because of the endings of particular words, the meaning stays exactly the same. Okay? So for example, you could say, pies widzi kota. Okay? So basically, it is the same example as before. The dog sees the cat, right? Pies is dog, widzi is conjugated see, and cat is kot. Okay? You can say pies widzi kota, but you can also switch the nouns around and say kota widzi pies. Kota widzi pies. So you could assume from English, again, that because the cat is the cat or kota is first, it should be that the cat sees the dog, but it's actually not the case. The meaning stays exactly the same. Okay, so maybe this actually what is in parentheses is might be confusing. So let me just the dog sees the cat. So just make sure that you understand that the meaning is exactly the same. No matter if you say pies widzi kota or kota widzi pies. It is in both instances the dog that is seeing the cat. So how do we know that? How do we know that the cat is being seen? Well, the meaning is the same because the ending and particular the additional a in the word kota tells us the cat is the one being seen, no matter where it is in the sentence. It could be at the beginning, at the ultimate end, 20 words later, it could be anywhere. It means that the cat is being seen, that it receives an action, okay? Just because of this little guy here, okay? Great. So, in general, a case is grammatical case shows the relationship between a noun or pronoun adjectives and the other words in a sentence. So the case can answer the question or help us in figuring out, okay, who is performing the action in that sentence, who is receiving the action, to whom is something given, whose is it, so who possesses particular thing, or where is it. For example, it is not all the questions are presented here, but in general, these are the topics. And this corresponds to some other things that you should be familiar in different languages as well. As I said earlier, there is direct and indirect object thingy in Spanish as well. So in that way, it should be kind of familiar. So key takeaway that in Polish, you don't just learn like a singular word or a noun, like cat is kot, and there you go, that's it. You kind of learn a whole family of the word. I'm not saying that you have to memorize, okay? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you have to memorize every possible form of the noun. I'm just saying that every noun is like a family, pretty much, because you can add some particular endings that will change the job of that word in a sentence, okay? So now let's dive into what are the actual Polish cases, and let me just move that to a side for a second. Okay, perfect. So in Polish, we have 7 cases. And in this video, remember, this is the introduction to cases. So I'm just going to go over what is the function of each case. We're not going to be talking about particular endings on or how to construct these cases, okay? We're going to be diving into every case in a separate video, okay? Right now, you just have to know that there are 7 Polish cases, which means what? That there will be possible 7 different forms for every noun in the Polish language, okay? That's it. So nominative is called mianownik in Polish. Nominative is the most basic case. I also told you in many videos before, I referred to nominative. I refer to it also as a dictionary form because it is the dictionary form of a noun. It is a noun without any ending, sorry. So you can treat it as a zero case or case where there is just, like none added at the end. There is just no particular ending. So this case answers the questions like who or what. And it is basically the subject of the sentence. So who is performing the action? What is performing the action, right? Who sees what? Who does what? What is being given? What is that? Who? Blah, blah, blah. Basically the subject. So that's why it is also the dictionary form of a noun, because it's like it's the star of the show, the one performing the action. Exactly. So because it's the most essential form of a noun, I guess that's why there is no particular ending, and you just start. It is just a starter, okay? And then when you want to clarify additional meaning, we go into these other guys, okay? So the second case is genitive or dopełniacz. in Polish, dopełniacz. It answers the questions such as of whom or of what. So this case answers the question like, or its job is to showcase the possession, some quantities, or negation. It answers whose and is used after, for example, nie ma. Like there isn't of what, of whom. I'm sure it doesn't make a particular sense to translating it directly into English, but you'll get used to it when we dive deeper into each case and when we go over each forms and some examples, okay? So just basically of whom, of what, so the case of possession, okay? Great. Then we have dative, I think it's pronounced in English, celownik. So not of whom, of what, but to whom, to what. So who or what benefits from or receives something, okay? So to whom am I giving this gift or this apple, or to what am I giving or doing that, okay? So always think to or for someone. Okay. Then we have accusative or biernik. These answers whom or what. And now, the super important thing about this case is that it will probably, I'm not sure actually for pure English speaker, or like a native English speaker, but it might be the toughest one because, as you can see, boom, what is there? Like, okay, the question what is present here, but it's also present here, okay, in this exact same form. And now you have a whom, but there's also who there. So there's only a slight difference between nominative and accusative. And this difference is actually also confusing sometimes for even the Polish speakers. So when we have our classes in schools and we teach the kids literally about our case systems, some kids struggle with identifying how to differentiate between this and this. Of course, since we're used to our language, just naturally, know how to use each of these cases, but what is the exact difference might be a bit problematic, okay? But it is the direct object, so this is the noun directly affected by the verb's action. What does it mean? We'll go over it in future, okay? If you know what is the direct and indirect objects, for example, in Spanish it exists, then you're golden. You can just maybe Google it to make sure, okay? But if you know Spanish, just Google the indirect, direct object and you should be pretty familiar, okay? Then we have instrumental, so narzędnik, with whom or with what. Indicates the tool, means, or instrument used to do something. So by what or with what have you done this thing, okay? It's also used for some companionship. So for example, with whom have you gone out, or with whom are you walking, or with whom are you living, and so on, right? So basically with someone or with something. Then we have locative, miejscownik, about whom or about what. The case of location and for talking about something, okay? And the rule is that it is always used with a preposition, some counterparts to English in, on, or at, okay? So about what, about whom. And the last one, vocative, wołacz. There is actually no question for wołacz. It is just a call and a sudden shout. The best way to think about it is, how would you shout at someone to pay attention to you or to notice you, okay? Like, for example, if I have a friend called Adam and I see him on the street and I want him to look at me, I'm gonna shout, Adam, Adam, right? It's that shouting mechanism. So it's this case's job is used for directly addressing someone or something. Think, oh, John, or hey, mom, and stuff like that. So, and then can be, or there are many cases where the vocative is exactly the same as nominative, but sometimes there are some form changes, okay? So it is actually a separate case, but it can also be pretty consistent with nominative, let's say, okay? So now let's go over some examples. And since we've been talking about cats and dogs earlier in this video, I will show you how to translate all of these cases into some actual examples, okay? Only over the singular. But first of all, maybe I can show you how to find the Polish nouns in different cases, okay? So the form of a Polish noun in different cases. So for example, you can go over to Wiktionary, so it's like a dictionary combined with Wikipedia, right? And you can just search for a particular Polish noun in its nominative, so dictionary form. So you find, for example, dog in dictionary. So dog in Polish is pies, okay? Search for it, boom. And you're now on the article page or the subpage of pies. You can scroll into the Polish section, and then in the noun of pies, you can see that, yes, in fact, it is a dog in English. And there is the declension part, okay? Just click show, and boom, there you go. That is the whole table of that noun declensed. I hope it's the correct verb. So basically, this shows the noun in every case, okay? As we've talked. Nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, instrumental, locative, and vocative. This is the noun pies, or dog, in every case. So these are the forms, okay? So you can see some of them are exactly the same. So for example, this one and that one, and also this one and this one. And also, there is a difference between singular and plural, right? So there is a whole transformation or different forms for singular version and also a plural version. Okay? But that is how you can find your table of declension or table of cases for your noun of choice. You can just, or maybe you can just Google Polish declension of and put your noun, okay? So basically that's how I found also this table of our word cat. So we have our table of kot or cat, and we have our cat in different cases. Kot, kota, kotu, kota, kotem, kocie, kocie. Okay? So now let's construct some 7 example sentences using each case. Okay? We're not talking about plurals here, okay? Because the plurals would be pretty much exactly the same. So the usage or the function of the cases is exactly the same, but you're just talking about multiple cats, not a singular cat, okay? So, nominative kot. To jest kot. Okay? Which means in English, this is a cat. Great. So in Polish, maybe I mentioned it earlier, maybe not, so I'm saying this right now, that we do not have articles at all. No and the, none, like null article or whatever it is. There are no articles, okay? So apart from this a, or you can maybe we can maybe put it like that. So this is cat in Polish, right? The second one, genitive. And sorry, so to jest kot, this is cat. And so the questions are what, who, what, for the nominative case, okay? So this makes sense because this is, and the noun that should answer, that we should place, should answer the question what. This is what? This is cat. Okay, I hope it makes sense. This is what? And then we insert the noun form that answers that question, what? Cat. Great. The second one, genitive. Okay, nie mam kota. Nie mam kota. What does it translate to? I don't have a cat. So as I said before, no articles in Polish. I don't have cat. Now, when we look, whoa, what is happening with my whiteboard? Okay. And when we look over here, you might wonder, well, shouldn't the cat also answer the question what over there? Because, well, I don't have a what in English, right? I don't have a what. But when you look over there to genitive, it answers of whom, of what, but it is also used after nie ma, there isn't, or someone doesn't have. You don't have what, okay? So I don't have a cat answers actually the second of who, of what. Okay? Okay. Or of whom, of what. Maybe we can go later to that particular case and create a sentence that directly corresponds to of what, to just make sure you get that, okay? So the third one is dative. So daję mleko kotu. Daję mleko kotu. So I give, or I am giving, whatever, milk to cat, right? Mleko is milk. And so right now it should be pretty obvious that I give milk, and then we need to answer to whom or to what, and place the noun that in a form that provides, that answers that correct question. Okay, when we look over there, yep, to whom, to what. Okay, so we need to do the number 3. We look over there, it is kotu. Okay, so then we have to put kotu. Okay, to whom, to what. Okay, I give milk to whom, to what. And to answer that question, we have to modify cat to be in that form. And then we do not need to put any additional preposition, because just by adding that u at the end already informs us that we're doing something, or we're giving something to the cat. Okay, I hope you get it. There is no preposition. We're just using that form that answers these questions. Okay? Okay. Number 4, accusative. Widzę kota. Widzę kota is I see cat. Okay? So now we have the situation that I told you earlier. You might also wonder, well, I see, shouldn't it be like maybe who or what? But then, well, maybe not who, but whom, to be super precise. Yeah, and that is the whom or what. If you're not super familiar with like the distinction between these two, for now, no problem, okay? So basically, this, because okay, to super quickly explain this sentence, but you do not have to pay attention right now, okay? You can just go over it maybe in a future video, but if you get it, that's nice. If you don't get it, don't worry. Maybe let's start with that, okay? In this sentence, I see a cat, okay? The I, me, is the subject of a sentence. Okay? And that means that it can be also added here. So for example, ja widzę kota. Ja is the I in Polish, okay? And it is in nominative case. Why? Because it is the subject of a sentence, and when you look over there, the subject of a sentence is just a basic dictionary form that answers who or what. So who or what sees something? Well, who? Me, okay? So I. Then we have see, and then we have another noun that is affected by that verb. So someone does something, does action to another noun, okay? So I am doing something to a cat. And what is that? I'm seeing it, okay? And that's why we need to use the number 4. I hope it makes sense. Basically, when we start an action, when we are the subject of the sentence, when we are the first thingy that does something, okay, in a sentence, then we are in a nominative territory, okay? But when something performs the action, when there is X action Y, then that Y that is receiving the action, that other noun, is in number 4 or accusative, okay? If you don't get it, we will have more videos later. Number 5, sorry, instrumental. Idę z kotem. Idę z kotem. I walk or am walking with a cat. I walk with a cat. So basically, with whom? With what? We look over there. Yep, there we go. It's okay. Number 5, with whom? With what? Yes, it checks out, okay? I walk with, and we need to put a noun that answers the question with what? With whom? Okay? I walk with what? Well, kotem. And just because of the em at the end, it answers the question that we walk with the cat, okay? Okay. Number 6 is kind of similar. Mówię o kocie. Mówię o kocie. So locative. Mówię o kocie. I talk about a cat. Okay? So I talk about a cat. So about whom? Or about what? When we look over there, we can see that, yes, indeed, the locative is the one that should be focused on answering about whom or about what, okay? I talk about, and we need to put a noun in a form that answers the question about whom, about what. I talk about, well, about cat, o kocie, o kocie. And the last one, vocative, is just a shout. So, cat or kitty or whatever you want. Come. Cat, come. Like, come here or whatever. It would be like the direct translation, right? So there is no question for number 7, okay? But we just put the noun, or we use the noun that we want to get attention from, right? We just want to shout at that thing to get attention from it. So, cat, look at me. Cat, cat, cat. Kocie, kocie, kocie. Or when we're angry about our cat destroying, you know, some plant or, I don't know, sofa. Kocie! We can shout like at our cat like that, okay? There we go. So, these were all 7 cases. Honestly, this video is quite long, but I'm kind of satisfied with it because the case system is probably the most convoluted thing, and I'm looking at it through the lens of a Polish speaker, so it is natural for me, but it might not be so natural for you. So I took my time to explain every single case and show you some examples. So I hope that you can at least get the feeling of why do we use the cases, okay? To not use another prepositions on or other words, or not to rely just about the word order, and they can help us add additional, just hide some functions of a word with like a pretty neat, tidy, just 1 letter, 2 letter change, right? It becomes super natural when you are used to the case system. So yeah, I would suggest that if you feel comfortable with my explanation of these cases, then feel free to just you know, repeat these cases, which one is you know, connected to which questions, and yeah, just try to remember them. If you feel like you still are missing something, then maybe let me know in the comment section below, okay? And yeah, we can just go over some last potential pitfalls or common mistakes. So first of all, information overload. I just try to, you know, maybe just clarify that. First of all, trying to memorize all the case endings for all genders at once. I'm not sure if it's a good idea. Well, we haven't done that in this video because that was just the introduction. We have not talked about any particular endings and how to construct these cases, right? But even now, with just understanding this, I would just take time and soak in all of these 7 cases and make sure you understand why each one was used over there, okay? When you're ready to move on, then it would be probably the best if you can understand it from this video. If you feel like you lack some more examples, then feel free to just go in to another videos, to the next videos, okay? Relying on English word order, yeah. So basically, in Polish, there is something called a natural word order. So there is obviously a way that we create sentences that sounds more or less natural. But in general, you can be pretty flexible, as I've illustrated earlier, okay? You can create sentences like psa widzi kot and kot widzi psa. Again, just switching around these 2 words from the beginning and the end. So just do not rely on English word order, on any word order in particular, to be honest, okay? Ignoring the gender is obviously a huge mistake. That's why we've already dealt with masculine, feminine, and neuter nouns. So please make sure for the next videos to just understand the differences, and that just some nouns are masculine, some are feminine, and some are neuter, and it's just an inherent feature of these nouns, okay? Mixing up nominative and accusative, we will be talking about this, especially in the video about accusative, okay? So yeah, for some for some nouns the cases will be different, and this can be the forms can be exactly the same, and this can be confusing, but we will clear that up in the next videos. And forgetting prepositions, so the locative case is the one that never appears alone, but some other cases can also use prepositions, okay? But this one, the number 6, we use some sort of location to talk about something, okay? And that's it from me in this video. Make sure to, I guess, get used to the case system, and yeah, see you in the next video.